Hey, what's up, guys? Um, Going through comments that I haven't answered yet, and there's a lot, man. Holy moly! I have to go. So, 'cause I'm pretty sure there's going to be some like interesting things here. You know, uh, who's on? Hello, good morning. So at the back of the channel, it looks like this. As you can see, there's like hundreds and hundreds of like. Some of them I've actually answered, which is like good. I don't understand. Actually, if it was answered, it should actually just disappear. Mm, See, look at this guy. He says like 3,000, and then 2,500 or 2,000. Like, you can't tell someone who already has a reel that, you know, this is the way to go. And I didn't even know this was happening. But at the end of the day, you can't put a reel that balances. Hello, Rob. Yeah, it is a lot of comments, and some of these I don't really see. Like this one, for example, I answered this guy. I answered Johnny Tran, and then Sweet Accord tells him like you don't need the 3,000 reel, but Johnny already has like a rod. It's his combo, and then Sweet Accord's telling him like, you know you don't need a 3,000 reel if you're shore jigging. 2,500 or 2,000, that's for shore jigging. That's actually not good. Too small. With 10-pound braid, like 10-pound braid US is very thick. So if you put that on a 2,500 or 2,000, you don't have much. Step down to 6 or 8. If you're doing PE, it's thinner. Trout rods for 5 to 6 gram lures. Actually, there are specific rods for this. Oh, jeez, man. Because there are like really light shore jigging rods. So I honestly, it's just like amazing how. Well, anyway, she's sharing, and let's see if someone listens to him, follows him, and finds success, then it's good. So I don't understand why it's actually showing comments from me, because normally it's blank. Uh, what did I say here actually? And now I'm curious. Yeah, what did I say exactly? At 23 something, 23:53. What did I say exactly? Yeah, that's true though. You know, um, all those guys that are actually saying like Alberto not this, Albright not this and all that. I mean, like, dude, I've used all of those. Coming from a surf fishing background, double unis and all that. I've used all of those, right? So that's after learning the PR and the FG, there is no way in hell I'm actually going back to like an Alberto nut or a double uni and all that. No way, man. Especially when you're well, actually, what's recommended would be the surgeon's nut if you're putting in like two diameters of varying or two lines of greatly varying diameters. But there's no way in hell you're gonna get me to tie an Alberto or what do you call this? So yeah, I mean, no way. If there's someone who actually gives me that advice, and tells me that it casts better, I'll just actually kind of walk away because he doesn't know what he's talking about. So you know, Ed. So it's like so weird that you're gonna get advice from people and stuff like that. I mean, even people that think that they have like a lot of experience, but their experience is like skewed to one side. I mean, I'm I'm all for listening and don't get me wrong, guys. Okay, this is what I've experienced. Okay, and I think in the short amount of time that I existed on Earth, and actually being lucky enough to travel and meet all these like really good people, and learning from literally some of the best in the industry. Okay, um, there's a few things I've learned. And one of them is that even if the guy says he has a lot of experience and he did this and he did that, you know, first thing is that you don't know if his experience is based on being just stubborn or he objectively went through everything. And I think that's the difference there. If you have a lot of experience and your experience is just being stubborn and um, you're not looking at things objectively, it's very difficult to kind of you know um, have something consistent when you actually share it. That's I think because like you have someone that experiences something else when they try it, right? And then when they compare apples to apples, like if you find someone who's really objective and then they put things together, it's a different experience. And then they go like, hey, this guy, and then after that what happens is that they'll say like, oh, this guy's, what he's saying is bullshit. So that's when egos fly. So for me, I try to be as objective as possible, and I can't I can't bring myself to actually immediately agree unless um, I see it for myself and see exactly if it's okay or not. So most of the time, I have like a skeptical view on things, right? Until I really see that it's something. Like take for example, when I see something introduced in the market, um, I think it takes me about a year or so. Even if I adopt it, it'll take me about a year or so to actually kind of really see the merit of it. And there are a lot of stuff from Japan that goes out of Japan, that this applies to, because not all of their methods can be used outside of Japan for a number of reasons, So, like, there's some methods, like, take for example, they have, um, well, it's not only Japan, right? So there's stuff from Hawaii that don't really get out of Hawaii, right? Um, Even if it's really effective, okay? A very good example would be, um, what do you call this? Hawaii has the soldier fish. I forget the name, but they have like a fishing method wherein they would have like really really long rods. It's ultralight fishing, and you're fishing for these fish. I think the soldier fish. It's a kind of soldier fish. Um, and they fish with soft plastics and stuff like that. You don't see it outside of Hawaii, right? Even if, in theory, that's something that's very applicable, right? So, there's fishing for file fish in Japan. That's not really popular elsewhere, you know. So it's stuff like that. So for me, when I see it, I go like, hey, maybe that could be applicable. But then after that, you just go like, it's kind of kind of become skeptical and stuff. And then you'll find out that maybe it's not so good, like the accessories they have and stuff. It's just So for me, it takes me about a year or so to warm up. Even sometimes, um, for me, it's like I look at I look at a like take for example something groundbreaking, and then I see it and I go like, oh, this is good, and then you just go like, probably not a good idea. And then after looking closely at it and kind of giving it a chance, and it happens like it's either you say it's a good idea or it's not, but like you give it not an assumption. You know what I mean? You have to have an open mind and really like test it out. And there's a lot of things that I'm testing out that what do you call this that I could see that it's applicable, and then there are those that are not. So, you know, but not everyone goes through that because we all have our assumptions, right? And then we hold on to those like beliefs. Like take for example when you're buying gear, right? It takes so much for you to actually and that's I think this is why a lot of people have a disagreement, right? um like take for example one person's this happened a few times. One person's leaning towards a brand. Okay, so like take for example, if he reads on the internet without actually touching these, comparing everything, and then he would 100% believe that he made a good purchase. Now this happens on good runs, right? So he goes like, oh, this is really good, this is really good. And then when he's faced with evidence that there are better rods, he will totally just block it out because he justifies to himself that I bought the best thing, And then later on, even if you have like data, that you put, here we go, this is this, and that's objective, right? And this again, this happened like even just a few days ago when I was speaking with a friend, and when he found out, it's kind of like you're questioning his judgment, right? But you're not. You're just saying like, oh, this one is actually lighter than this. um they don't like it. Like even if it's heavier and they see that it's heavier, but see, here's the thing: lightness of a rod, okay, what a lot of people don't understand is that it affects action. It also affects the sensitivity, and those are two really big things. And majority of the people that when they purchased a rod or when they have a rod that fits the same use, and they see that, oh, this could be better or whatever, they tend to actually get on the defensive, and then they go because they can't bring it. It's human nature, man. They can't bring themselves to actually say that there's something that's better out there. very few people would actually say like, okay, there might be a good, better rod. I'm gonna try that out, and very few people can do it, especially if you're in a place like America, where it's very expensive to import stuff, right? Now, um, the advantage of being in the UAE or in the Middle East is that we're in the middle, okay, and then all this whole JDM stuff has been going on for a really long time, and then there's tackle shops here, like big. They're not like super big businesses like Bass Pro, but they're ran by people that have experience in this longer than, like, tackle shops in the states. Um, so they have leanings towards brands. So one brand would have, say, uh, Daiwa. One shop would have Shimano, and other brands, right? And you will find a very good sampling of all these good brands here. Okay, so for someone, if you want to buy, you can literally go on a tackle shop tour, and this will not take you a whole day. Okay, and then you'd be able to actually have a very conscious, let's say if you have money to spend, okay, you have, let's say, 3,000 dirhams. That's about $1,000, let's say. So $1,000 to spend on a rod, and then you hop from one. If you really have an open mind, okay, because a lot of people have like brand preferences, right? So if you really have an open mind, you go from one shop to another. You go and you look for these rods, right? You go, okay, this guy sells, let's say, Daiwa. I'm gonna try out all the Daiwa rods he has. And mind you, the Daiwa that's here, okay, the kind of Daiwa that's here is a mix between Europe and Japan, because there's a really big company that's not even a tackle shop. They don't have a tackle shop. They're literally a Daiwa dealer. Okay, so all they do is wholesale. So I can literally call their salesman, and then I'll tell him that I'm going to the warehouse. Okay, I'm gonna go through the rods, and I'm gonna take, like, whatever I want there, and then he goes, okay, I'll just tell the guys there, but but they don't normally uh, sell to individuals. It's just that, for me, I can do it, right? So either that, or he tells you to go to this dealer, okay, and then you can ask him like, where can I find this rod, so he tells me a dealer. I go to the dealer, let's say. But what I can do, if that's the route I'm taking, what I can do is actually go to the warehouse, because that's where all the rods are, okay? All the reels are. And then I can go there and choose. So I'll hold it, you know, see exactly what the specs are and stuff like that. Now, there's a difference between doing this and 30 minutes later I'm in another shop and holding another rod. Okay? And there's also a difference if you're going to a shop and then you're holding three different brands. It's possible here. Okay? If you know the right people, okay, it's very possible. In fact, for me, I can literally borrow a rod, go to another shop, and then see. So let's say I have like a short list, right? I'll go and borrow the rod, and then go to another place, borrow the rod, and then compare. Like, holy shit, this is that. But see, I can do that. Not a lot of people can. But this is why, hello, Leo. This is why for me, you know, um, it's like I have that kind of advantage, and that's kind of what I'm showing you guys here. So um, there's a lot of major craft. You know why? Very simple. Because a lot of people are thinking probably I'm biased to major craft. Hell no, man. Actually, if there's a bias, it's gonna be towards Abu. You know, um, and then I have Yamagas. And all these. Um, the thing is, I can compare stuff, and for the money, Jesus, major craft is hard to beat, right? So there was this discussion just a few days ago with a friend of mine, and then he goes, "Well, I don't know everything. and I might not be using the right stuff, but I know what I want, you know. So when people use words like that, their verbiage like that, that's already on the preference side, and you can't fault them for that, you know. But that's after they actually see facts, you know. Because like for me, I show them like, dude, here, this is the rating for this rod, this is the rating for this rod, and he knows it too, you know. He's not a stranger to all of this. And then he goes, oh, so you mean that this is lighter? I go, yeah. And then he goes, I have to, what's up, Brian? And then he goes, I have to check that out, you know. And then he goes like, well, I kind of like these rods, you know, the one that I have, you know. And then later on, you know, he wanted to actually like get in touch with the brand for some you know other reason. But um right then he actually saw, right, that there's, because he was thinking, he was telling me like, this the reason why I like it, it's light, you know, this. And then I go, well, it's for the money, you know. You're paying let's say 1,500 for that, and then you can get a rod that's actually cheaper and lighter, and that's Major Craft, like the 5G series, you know. And then now they're actually coming out with the 7G. So, you know, there's one brand that's made in China. It's not Japan. So they're, and then they're selling it for like what, more expensive than Major Craft. Major Craft has its own factory in Vietnam. They also have a factory in China, right? So the better rods are actually made in Vietnam with Japanese quality control, so they can actually drop the prices down more so than they can do in China. So there are rod companies that are really good. That the rods are made in China. They can't, they don't control the price. Whereas you have Major Craft that has its own factories, right? So they're able to control the price. That's why they're cheaper, they're lighter, and their technology is actually faster, right? So like you're looking at another brand that does shore jigging. I'm not gonna mention the brand because a lot of people are loyalists to that brand, and you know, part of the part of being a loyalist is actually kind of defending it, right? But I have a lot of friends also that were loyalists to Shimano, and they shifted to Daiwa because I told them that, listen, man, you know, like, all in good with Shimano, but the quality lately has been going down the drain, you know, because they're cutting so many corners. So when they actually started using Daiwa, they were so surprised that they were like, the newer reels are actually better, you know. So bang. And then you guys also have to understand, when you're buying into a brand, they have like their nuances, right? So like, take for example, for Shimano, the latest greatest technology would be applied to the top end. Daiwa takes a different approach. The latest greatest will actually be in the lower end of the spectrum. Okay, so what they do is they experiment on the lower end stuff. Okay, and then that's why you'll see that a lot of their mid end have like very, I would say, revolutionary stuff, right? Technology that you don't find. And then you question yourself why they actually migrate that to the what do you call this, to the top end quite late. It is because the middle tier for them is the proving ground, and then once a very good the technology is perfected, and what do you call this, it's already something that they deem, excuse me, something that they deem would be um, appropriate to be placed on their top end, and then they do it. So that's why you'll see that Daiwa, as far as the technologies for the rods, the reels, and even accessories are concerned, they get introduced late. Whereas with Shimano, the latest and greatest from their R&D, boom, they immediately put it on the top end. But those are that's basically the biggest difference between Daiwa and Shimano. Okay, so if you like a Daiwa technology, right, the Daiwa technology that's not up there yet in the Saltigas and all this. Wait, just wait until they will eventually introduce it. So that's how they do things. Now, there will come a time where they reach the life cycle of the technology. Like, take for example, for Shimano, what I don't like about Shimano is that, and I'm a heavy Shimano user. What I don't like about Shimano is that they will build something up really well. Okay, like take for example the Stella. So the earlier Stellas, you'll find that they'll build it up, to a level that's really really good. And this is the reason why I haven't really upgraded my twin powers and Shimano's. Once it reaches that peak, they'll see exactly which ones they can actually change and switch to like plastic or composite and stuff like that. And it comes to a point where it becomes kind of pointless to actually spend on a top end reel, and then you'll find a lot of thin parts or plastic parts. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. Another good example, um, accurate. Okay, the older accurates are actually better machined than the newer accurates. Why? That's weird, dude. You know? So that's why, like, you have really old reels like the 665s that look so nice. The engineering is much more polished than the newer reels. If you look closely at the newer reels, like the parts, you'll find that there's parts there that are, well, metal, but it looks like it comes from like a corner machine shop that they just bent, that they hammered and stuff. It's like, what? So you take an accurate, and then you take a Shimano, you put it side by side, and then you nitpick, right? You will find that, what do you call this? The machining for Shimano's are much more refined than say Accurates. So why the hell are you supposed to pay like a premium price for something like an Accurate when it could be argued that they're not kind of doing things properly, right? Because if they're doing things properly, it would be more polished. And then obviously they will say like, oh, labor cost and all this. But yeah, I mean, you're up against something like Shimano. You open up an Accurate, you'll see like in the inside how dirty it is, the machining compared to, what do you call this? You'll see that the tooling marks and stuff, and then when you go to a Shimano, the tooling marks are much more refined. So, you know, if you're competing against that, why would you even? It's like Steve Jobs and Apple before, right? So when he was around, like everything Apple was like immaculate, and now it's kind of like questionable. So it's shit like that. So and people are always going to actually, you know, always going to refer to that, like, so guys that are loyal to the brand would actually say like, oh, this and this and that. At the end of the day, like if it's reels, like even rods, when you're picking between brands, you know um like for reels, Daiwa and Shimano standard. For rods, it's actually kind of like um it's more for use, you know what I mean? There's rods that a lot of people have not heard about. Okay, one of these brands is like Patriot. So Patriot designs have been around for a really long time, and probably like one of those rods that helped shape this whole industry, the popping for big GTs, um, spinning for big, what do you call this? Like really big, really fucking big, dog tooth and all this. Yet no one has heard of the brand, right? Um, at this age, at this age in time, I mean, you could still find it, still very much available, and there's like loyalists for this. So a lot of people would probably say like, what the fuck kind of rod is this? You know, what the hell? They have like the World Combat Series, like literally bulletproof rods. Um, Instead of carbon, they have carbon and aramid fibers mixed in. So like it's the bulletproof shit. Yet a lot of people don't like them. The few that have used them and they know how to use them, they wouldn't trade them for the world. A lot of people would say that, oh, these are heavy and all this, but um, the kind of construction it has or they have, is built for a purpose. Now, if for me, I'm a small guy and I can't lift big stuff, I probably would choose something lighter, and then I would say that, yeah, that rod's good, but I can't bring out, you know even 70% of what it can do. So it becomes pointless, right? But I didn't say it was bad, right? I know it's good. It's just I know my limits. And there's a difference. Because a lot of people would just blindly go and buy a brand because guess what? This is what Joe said was good, right? Oh, this is what the guy on YouTube actually said. But unless you actually have it, like the proper way to buy a rod, especially these top end things, okay, is that you actually go to a shop, have all of the ones that you like, separate them according to how it feels, put the reel that you have on it, and then do a bend test, and then see exactly which feels, or it doesn't even have to be feel, but which one resonates. Okay, Leonardo, if I will fish until 50 meters, do I need a slow jigging combo or a light jigging combo? It's up to you. 30 to 100, 30 gram is okay. Depends. Yeah, I mean, it can be used. Um, that's light enough, that rod. When it comes to shallow water fishing, okay, what matters most is what you actually put at the end. Because at the end of the day, and I'll tell you the blunt truth right here, even if you can't do the strokes, okay, for slow jigging, you have long fall. So even if you don't have the right rod, okay, so let's say uh, you're fishing in 30 meters, still shallow enough. 30 meters, 100 feet. Okay, so for a 30-gram jig to actually sink down 100 feet doesn't take much. Okay, uh, you could use spinning, for that kind of depth. But if you really want to do everything by the number, or uh, fishing is tough and you really need a system that would be able to help you catch, then by all means, go full retard, rod, reel, line, everything. But at the end of the day, okay, if you're fishing shallow enough, you can just use like a medium action spinning reel. What matters is at the very end, because even if you're not able to jig it properly, you can still do long fall. And that long fall is actually very devastating. You just reel, go up, and then the jig is what makes things work. So you might not be able to catch a lot of fish on the upswing and all that, but even if you don't have the tools, if you just know how to work the jig, um, it's good. In a pinch, that's actually something good to know. Now, it's different if you really want to have a system that you can really use. Strategic. See, you're already doing two things wrong, right? Um, slow jigging 50, slow jigging and spinning reel. There's no such thing as spinning and slow jigging. Okay, there's nothing that it's not. I know there's videos on YouTube that show you, but that's more of marketing and fishing for idiots. But you cannot effectively slow jig with a spinning combo. Okay, that's the truth of it, Leonardo. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, okay, yeah, but you do fast jigs. Do fast jigs and sliding jigs. You said there, do I need if I fish until 50 meters, do I need a slow jigging combo? So I'm telling you right now, you know, it's not. Just get a bunch of jigs. Again, I'm saying it's not 100%, okay. But even if you put a slow jig there, okay, and you just do long fall, so long, it's gonna take a while for your jig to go to the bottom. And if um, let's say there's current, it's gonna be like a nightmare. Okay, so there are a lot of jigs that will work well. Here's a good example, something like this. Okay, um, so something like this is really good for that sort of thing. But um, if you're fishing like the rod, which is 30 to 130, just know that the heavier you go, the better the action. Okay, so this rod would be like on the stiffer side. Um, a good one would be probably 30 to 80, 30 grams to 80 grams. And there's like, that's the normal range. Like 30 to 130 is like a really big gap. Um, and if you have a rod like that, the best weights would start at around 50, 60, and that's when you actually would get like a nice action. Okay, just keep in mind that when it comes to jigging in general, the closer you are to the max weight of the rod, the better the action it will give to the jig, and the more natural action you will actually have. Okay, so that's kind of like a normal thing when it comes to jigging. You actually aim for the top end. That's top end of the weight. What do you call this? The weight. What do you weight limit? Okay, weight range limit. There we go. So the closer you are to max weight, the better the action. Test it out. Test it out. Because the thing is, this is what a lot of people don't realize, right? Let me have. I wonder. I hope this won't. This one won't break because this is fiberglass. All right. So um, here. So when you have like a lighter rod, what happens is it's spinning. So we do it this way. So what happens is the tip will bend, right? Sorry, heavier. And then the rod actually helps. Okay. Now, if it's lighter, what happens is that you don't have that much bend. Okay. And then when you jig, it recoils and then boom, right? It does that. Boom. So the more it would actually have like this snap going up, guess what happens? It flips the jig, right? It flips the jig. So, and the ideal action would be like that. Okay. So if the tip is stiff and then you jig it, it goes bang, bang, bang. What happens is that it will pull the jig and the jig will go like this. It will tumble. So the lighter you go, that's what happens. It tumbles. Now, if you know what you're doing, what happens is that you actually compensate for this. Instead of actually going, your motion like this, you actually go slower. With a little bit of a flick at the end. So it gives it that action. But the reason why you will snag your leader is if your assist okay, the reasons, if your assist hooks are too flimsy, it will snag your leader. If your rod is too stiff, it will tumble. It will snag your leader. If your jig is too light for the rod, it will tumble. Which is like kind of like the same thing, but in reverse, right? If their rod is too stiff, so um, you're not gonna have a good time. You're gonna have to actually learn how to compensate to be able to work the jig. This is why it's easier to go towards the max. What do you call this? The max weight. Also, let's say you have a PG reel, okay, and then you're jigging on a lighter jig. What happens is that you'll have slack, you because of that flick I was telling you about. So you won't be able to maintain contact with the jig because it's lighter than it should be. If it's heavier, okay, it'll put like constant pressure, and that's what basically moves the jig. So I know a lot of people are saying that, doesn't matter, they're putting on a smaller jig or a bigger jig. uh, it matters a lot, so if you understand the dynamics of how the rod um, works with the reel, and how it affects the jig or the lure that's on there, you'll understand. So very good example is, again, let me refer to one of my favorite students. His name is Wael. Okay. uh Wait, this is Wael. Let me show you guys. Okay, just so you can relate. Okay. He's such a doofus. I love the guy. uh what's his name? Waffles DXB. Oh gosh, okay, he should be here. uh Here he is. Oh, Wael Al Hashmi. Okay, so we go to his profile. So this is Wael, right? A doofus. So Wael, he's cool and everything, but he's like he doesn't listen well. Okay, so um, he's a funny guy. He's naturally funny. So what the problem with Wael is that when he buys equipment, before, he was actually saying that, I'm gonna use this to travel, so I need it to be like heavy and stuff like this. And I was like, are you sure about it? So I helped him pick out, all these things. Wasn't able to use it. And then, well, when he used it here, he was like, why am I always snagging my leader? And then I told him, like, why are you actually using lighter jigs on rods that are, that could actually take the dentures out of elephants? So, you know, the end of the story is that he had to purchase a whole new set of equipment to be able to actually do things properly. You know, so I told him, like, listen, man. At the end of the day, what's gonna happen is, uh, uh, at the end of the day, you are actually going to have to pay for it. Either way, you pay for it. Like, literally, either way, you pay for it. It's either, you break stuff and then you have to buy a new one. You lose stuff, you have to buy a new one, or you realize that you made a mistake, and then after, if it's good, if not, then we keep on being stubborn and just keep on using it. But um, while he's smart enough to actually realize, and then and like now he's even said, like, hey, my new reel, and it's a light reel. And I told him, like, wow, only took you 2 years. So um, either way, you pay. The buying fishing tackle is, look, man, um like, for me, okay, and I don't do this for fun and games, okay, it's like a job. um they're tools. Okay, so I've learned that uh to be successful at what you're doing, you really need gear that's not expensive but reliable. Okay, reliable, just it's reliable. It's not the expensive stuff, all this. It's reliable. The The unfortunate thing is that the reliable ones are actually expensive. But even the expensive ones, if you don't know how to pick, you know, you'll get in trouble because there are a lot of brands out there that make themselves expensive even if the value isn't too good. You know what I mean? So like take for example, you have weird third tier brands that market and put themselves in a position that they shouldn't be in. Okay, uh, uh, Tokayo, think about it. You know, they're trying to be a brand that competes with the Japanese, but they're not. They're not. They're not even third tier. You know, a third tier brand would be like Major Craft. That's a third tier brand, Major Craft. Okay, Tokayo is even not on that level yet. They want to position themselves. You know, uh, read today the TP. Like, okay, let me clear that up. Okay, um, Twin Power is actually technology from the old Stella. So, or from the previous model Stella. Okay, although they have like unique selling points of their own, uh, the technology that they learned from the Stella made cheaper. That's the Twin Power. That's exactly what it is. Okay, um, I have. Hold on, let me get my old one. So this I got in 2006. This is a Twin Power. Okay, my very first 8,000. Actually, kind of like my first top end reel. Um, when I kind of understood how these things work. So now, and the only thing I actually changed was to put an accurate handle knob here. So this, if you blindfold someone, you let them hold this and reel it in. They'll say it's either a Stella, or they'll probably say that it feels more like a Daiwa. Okay, but it's still super smooth as you can see there. Okay, works still. What do you call this? It still works like as good as it should. And guess what? Why this is because if you actually look at the technology that's inside here, it's the old Stella technology. So at one point, it was actually closer. Now there's a little bit of a gap, but before it was actually closer. The difference is that between a Stella and the Twin Power is heavier. So it's used. Um, let's say with the Stella, they will have magnesium parts and titanium maybe, but with Twin Powers, it's more like aluminum. What is Daiwa's top end spinning reel? This their answer to Stella. There's the Saltiga, and then there's several levels to the Saltiga. There's the expedition models, and then there's the dogfights. The biggest difference between a Daiwa, sorry, the biggest difference between a Stella and a Twin Power is weight. So you'll find that there's going to be several technologies not present in the same year Twin Power versus Stella, and then the Stella will be lighter. That is it. But if you want that Stella, wait 5 years, and then it'll be transferred to like Twin Power. That's it. So um, I have to say that I have quite a few Stellas and I have quite a few Twin Powers. But let me show you something really interesting. Here we go. Okay. See, so these are uh, there you are. See, these are my tuna GT reels. These are all like same size with the Studio Ocean Mark um, spools. Okay, so the body on this one is an 8,000, or these are both 8,000 sized bodies. Okay, but I put 16,000 sized Studio Ocean Mark spools on them. Okay, um, guess what? This is a twin power. Okay, oh, there we go. So that's a twin power. This is a Stella. So for this year model, you can actually interchange the spools of the twin power and the Stellas. And if you could see, if you just compare, look at the color, there's very little difference, you know, and they're both equally good. But when you hold them, you'll actually find that there's one is heavier, one is not, you know. But literally, if you held them and you actually used them, you wouldn't really know the difference. So, you know, let's and what do you call this? The the only thing, maybe the only thing uh, that would be when you put them on rods, okay? But when you put them on rods, the funny thing is, if you put the Stella on the heavier rod, and then you put the twin power on a lighter rod, let's say you hold both of them, it's equal. So it's fucking the same, you know. And plus, since I changed the spool, right, to a Studio Ocean Mark spool, guess what? They cast the same way. So it doesn't, for me, it doesn't matter, you know. But yeah, that's the, what do you call this? Yeah, Roxo. It's I don't understand. Like, dude, think about it this way, right? Cars, it's the same thing. You buy the latest and the greatest, and what happens is that as soon as the production run starts, there's going to be kinks, right? There's going to be kinks, and what happens is that they will actually uh, iron out the kinks. That's why you have recalls and stuff like that. Mr. Knight. Hey, 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 hey. Check it out. James. Think about it this way. Think about this. Okay. If you have a kid named Michael, right? That'll be Michael Knight, right? And then you have him tune in, right? You have him tune in to the stream. Like, dude, right? So it's Michael Knight and Kit back together. Yeah. Okay. Going back. Roxo. It's like with yeah, David Hasselhoff, right? Holy crap. Jeez. 80s babies. Hello. So you what do you call this? You actually, like, for everything that's manufactured, you know, and I really admire those, the bravery of those guys that actually just, you know, buy what that's latest and greatest of the buy, and then that's it. The only thing, I have to say this, the only one of the reels that I actually hopped on immediately, okay, after it was introduced, was the TPXD. So right after it was introduced, first production run, I actually bought one, right, a 5,000 size, and then um I got rid of it. And I was like, shit, what I will do, okay, is actually, I sold it, right? After I sold it, I waited like 2 years. TPXD, Twin Power Extra Durable. It's a smaller one. So the TPXD is a Magnum Light version of the Twin Power. and it's only from like a 2,000 or 3,000 all the way to a 5,000. But it's a 5,000 C, and this one is a 4,000. Um, the good thing about this, okay, is that the 5,000 and the 4,000 is actually the same size body, and if you want a 5,000, you just buy the spool. So for me, right? Haven't you bought a Cast King reel before? Holy shit, man. I played around with one before. Yeah, of course. You know. Um, uh, okay, how should I say this? If you're buying a Cast King, okay, buy a Abu Garcia JDM instead. Okay. No, 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 no. I mean, look, I buy a lot of stuff and experiment, okay, and then see exactly if it's good or not. So, and I don't judge, okay. Like there are some really good reels out there that are um, of good value, okay. uh, but that's exactly what I'm saying. If you're actually buying a Cast King and you're investing on a Cast King, kind of look into the JDM Abu Garcias, you know. But that's the thing, right? The Cast King for America, you can use the return policy. Boom, that's it. Because I've explained this before, right? I've explained this before. Like products intended for the mass market in the US. Leonardo, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah. So um the mentality for fishing gear in the States, you know, very very different, very very different. It's like they make money off of they will make money off of people that don't return shit, and they will make reels and rods according to that frame of mind rather than fishability. So even if the reel sucks, who cares? You can return it. You chip it, return it. If that's the kind of thing that you want, then yeah, that's just how the mentality. Dude, I got banned for that fucking video. You know that it's. I seriously got banned for that video. Uh, for some weird reason, I could post, but I couldn't comment on my what do you call this, on my channel. Like imagine not being able to comment, and no reason was given. They just fucking outright banned me. And I tried to talk to them and stuff, and they said like, yeah, there's a ban, but why? And then they go like, oh, it's a community policy. You like, but there's no warning. There's no warning, no warning, no whatsoever. It kind of like they put me on mute. So I'm like, what the fuck, man? you know Ginny, can you use a 9-foot jigging rod in other fishing styles other than jigging? Yes. Uh Shore jigging rods are actually very good plug rods, not the ones with the lips, but small poppers, small stick lipless stick baits and stuff. It's like really really good. In fact, they're more of a plugging rod than they are jigging rods. So these are just part of the arsenal. uh, I know the fishing companies are fishing for the fishermen. Oh yeah, it's Roxo. It's dude, it's not it's not a charity, dude. You know what I mean? It's business. So James, it was when I was talking about JDM versus Freedom Gear. Hold on, let me get it for you if you want. That was bad, man. I think it lasted like 3 weeks. Uh, Stream. Okay, that's not. Show all. But that was so bad, man. What is the stuff you have been sniffing on your videos? Ah, that's like a inhaler. You know when you have stuffy nose. You what do you call this? You sniff it. It's from Thailand. There's one from Vicks. Okay, hold on. That's before. Here it is. Okay, let me copy this. So this literally got me banned, James. That's the one. Uh, Wirenhar. Cast King is a good reel, but it is not reliable. Well, yes. And after calculating how many times I use with the amount of money, I think Cast King is more expensive. Well, dude, like you know, Wirenhar, if you're in the US, you can actually exchange it. You know what I mean? So it's like similar to like one of the reels that or one of the brands that were actively sold before was actually a Daiwa contractor. They're Tica. So these reels, in the earlier stages, you can see that they're actually kind of like Daiwa clones because they were building reels for Daiwa. So as far as their spinning reels were concerned, they're actually pretty good. And then over time they just built up their brand, and they I don't know what happened to the brand actually. I'm sure they still exist, but I don't know if they actually evolved. But judging from what the market is right now, it's Chinese, right? So judging from what the market is now, and where you can't really find them, so I think they can't really, or they didn't really evolve much. But in the earlier days, this was actually a very good. Where back when I was in the Philippines, it was actually uh, being sold as an alternative. So similar to how Cast King is to the states. They were actually okay, but I don't know. They didn't evolve. And then pretty much what happened was that there were other brands that were introduced that were cheaper. So even if they were cheap, and then they were still cheaper. So yeah, I mean, really, like favorite rods, for example. At one point before the war in the Ukraine, because it's an Ukrainian brand, it was everywhere, right? And it's the same exact thing. What Cast King did is what for rods, it's exactly what favorite did as well. On the topic of light line usage on party boats for large fish, I'm thinking the captain will be hesitant to allow light jigging. Yes, I would say, because with the tangling and everything, so they don't like it. They'll probably say that the long fight from light line will burn too much time. No, it's more for the tangles because it's very difficult to untangle, and then you'd always have your line cut. So in on party boats, what they do is encourage you to, if you can horse the fish in, they will horse the that just, and it's a faster turnover and stuff. Speaking of Chinese, yeah, yeah, like rock, you're paying for reliability. That's it. Yeah, James, it's like really good, but I had to pull it out, right? And then by the time I actually put it back on, that was it. It didn't gain traction anymore. If you know how to pick out the correct jigs, okay, and I'm gonna show you guys so that you guys are aware, okay. Um, all right. There's two, and I will pick out one. That's not bueno. Okay. So you have jigs like these, right? That are kind of thin. And then you have jigs like these that are kind of thick. Okay. So here's one also that's kind of thick. Now, see, with this, not gonna bend because it's thick. Here, not gonna bend because it's thick. This one, apply pressure and then the fucking thing bends. See? So when you're buying Chinese jigs, avoid the long, slim ones. Okay, buy the thick, fat ones. Okay, because these, even if they get knocked around, they're not gonna bend. They're not gonna bend on you. See, they're not. And you know, see. So these are the ones that you what do you call this? Now, this is a Chinese copy of Gomoku Slim, and I have to say, okay, look at this. This is a copy. Okay, you see that? This is an original. Like what the fuck, man? The copy looks better. The paint, So that's why I have the copies. After finding the copies, because the small ones are like some of my favorites, and then it took such a long time for Storm to actually introduce the big ones. I don't know what they were debating about because it was heavily asked for. When they finally came around, the Chinese have already copied it, and I was not in the company anymore, so I bought the copies, and holy crap, man, they're better, way better. I am not in US, and God bless me. Yeah, that's the problem. If you're not in the US, and if you want to buy casking, even if you're in the US, look into the JDM Abu Garcia reels because they're better value for the money. I had found out myself. Yeah, yeah. You know, but rock, like I said, like these tips that I just showed, right? If you're buying the ones that you can't bend, there are like a jig is a jig, and sadly, even if you throw a lot of technology and a lot of research and development on jigs, what happens is that they cannot patent it. Okay, so what happens is that you can just mold and then make a copy of that particular shape. The Where the money is at, okay, why it's expensive, is because Japanese jigs will actually have antimony and tin mixed in, and that makes them unbendable. So with the Japanese stuff, you'll find that even if they're thin, you can't bend them because it's an alloy. And guess what? Antimony is a carcinogen, and it's not easy to work with. So the people that are working will, yeah, they're dangerous for them. So the cost is higher because they have to wear like PPE and stuff like that. Whereas with lead, you just have a fan that blows the fumes away. They ladle it, they put it on the mold, spin it around, then bang, it's done. The problem is, of course, lead is malleable, it's soft, so that's what happens. So you get Chinese jigs that are pure lead, right? Yeah. Chinese reels are awesome. There are a lot of reels that are made in China that are actually okay. I think one of the first things that you do if you get a Chinese reel is to change the bearings, because for everything that's made in China, the bearings that they use are so inferior that it contributes heavily to the breakage of all other parts. So if you change the bearings on all the bearings on all the moving parts, which is weird because if you did that, the cost of the reel essentially doubles because good bearings are actually expensive. But if you do that, you'll find that your reel will actually work okay. Uh, Tail blade snapped off the Alibaba jig. Some CDMs. Well, that's just it. What do you call this? The They do a lot of shortcuts, and then what you need to do is also buy from a lot of brands before you actually find Would it be ridiculous to only use tungsten, zinc, or aluminum instead of lead? These are different weights. Like tungsten is heavier, zinc is lighter, aluminum is lighter, lead is heavier. So lead is dense. So zinc and aluminum are not as dense. There are some jigs, like take for example, there's a version of a kaitan from huts that's aluminum, and there's specific use for it. There are zinc jigs as well. Okay, there are also steel jigs, like take for example, nature boys. Nature boys are not made of lead; they're actually made of steel. So they cut the steel up, they shape it, and they weld it. So and then they paint it, obviously. Yeah, but rock. That's the long and short of it. Aluminum turns into aluminum oxide. Zinc also degrades. Tungsten, it's expensive. You know. Yes, James. Fumes. That's what I said earlier. You need a fan that actually sucks the fumes out. When I work with lead at the shop, I have like a fan, that sucks out and kind of directs the fumes elsewhere, and it's an open area. I don't want to die, man. Yeah, you would know, casting bullets. And guess what? Like take for example, if you're melting tire weights, that's gonna be like muzzle load. Wow, I'd want to fire one of those, and a flintlock, like just fire. you know if I was to hunt deer, the very first deer I want to hunt would be with a bow, right? And then the second would be with a flintlock or a muzzle load. Then after that, I don't want to do the rifles and stuff, But those two, either a muzzle load or a flintlock, and a bow, you know. So yeah, dude. Uh, where is that, guys? I'm gonna take like a 3 minute break. Okay. What do you call this? I'm gonna I'm gonna get some water. Okay, just give me a second. I'm back. Okay, so let me get something for you guys. I want to show you guys something. Okay, give me a second here. There it is. Yes. I wanted to show you guys an example, right? Um, so why not a rifle? Uh, Dude, I've dealt with rifles a lot in my lifetime, you know. So I find rifles boring because it was part of training and stuff. So yeah, and for me, I kind of like the what do you call this? I kind of like the idea of going medieval. uh Rock. So that's exactly what I was gonna show you guys. Okay, so um, this is a JDM Abu Garcia reel. Okay, now this is made in Korea. Okay. Oh, there's Jesus Christ. Okay, so um, there we go. Can you guys see? There. Okay, so see, um, this can be a casting reel and a jigging reel. Okay, this is called the Salty Stage BV8. And guess what? I bought this for the same price as a casting. I'm not too sure if you can actually find what do you call this still, but a really really good reel. Okay, so um, I think it has cast control. Let me see. So yeah, it has cast control, right? And if you look at the spool, if you look at the inside right here, if you can see it, I don't know if you can actually. There we go. You see, the spool is wiffle. So that's a really light spool. You only find wiffle spools and high quality reels, usually aftermarket stuff, you know? And it's really freaking good. For the same price as a cast king, and it's something that you can cast with for sea bass or something that you could jig with. And okay, let me show you guys the. Hey, Ferdis, look the specs. Look at the specs. Okay, 7 kg drag, dude. That's the same as a fucking OSHA jigger, and it's 215 grams. Okay, it holds 200 meters of Fireline 1.2 or 220 meters of PE1, right? That's very good value, man. And guess what? It's not cheaply made. So, dude, like instead of buying a cast king, get one of these. You know, Abu Garcia. I'm telling you, it comes with two handles. It came with two handles. I don't know where the other one is now. I lost it, but it came with two handles, and honestly, it's one of those reels that's just and I have a story for this too. We went to this B2B fishing tackle manufacturer, fishing tackle distributor in Japan, and they were having a sale. This was before the Osaka Fishing Show. So a friend of mine walked into the what do you call this? Walked into the building, and it's literally like a huge building, 6 floors, and it's all fishing tackle. Like holy shit and a half. And guess what? These are not um, what range would warrant the use of a shallow spool for jigging. If you're fishing like below 50 meters, or even 100 meters, shallow spool works. I mean, it has like 200 meters of 1.2, 220 meters of PE1. That's more than enough. You could do all sorts of stuff: tie rubber, uh, light jigging, slow jigging. Definitely slow jigging with this at 8.1. That's perfect. At 100 meters, that's really good. You know, Doyo Abolus, yeah, right. So it's same factory. So imagine, but you're looking at range of a micro jig? Well, it depends, right? So, like, take for example, at 100 meters, you could do up to about 150 with the current. So, up to 150. Shimano Tranx is also very good. Yes, obviously, Shimano, man. Major craft 10 grams is when I'm fishing from shore mostly, fishing off of a kayak in waters up to about 20 meters. I would use a 10 gram. And then, at that depth, I'd be using like really thin line, certainly not PE1. Virenhar, you're funny, man. You're looking for a 3000 series low gear for spinning. I've been looking for one for a really long time. Um, I found one with Daiwa. Okay. Let me show you what I bought and where I bought it. I'm gonna link you. Okay. Just because like it's so freaking funny that I actually managed to find one, right? And comparing it. So yeah, I'm gonna send you the link to my order. Hold on. I'm just pulling it out. Okay. This will freaking blow your mind, dude. Because of all the reels, it's freaking Daiwa, right? I mean, like me and Daiwa, we have a love-hate relationship. Like, what do you call this? There are some Daiwas that I really, really love, and then there are just those that I just like. Seriously. But majority of the one that I have, it's like overheads. It's 2023, I believe. What? Or 2024. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. Uh, yep, this is the one. Okay. It's not that expensive. Okay, so within her, there's your answer. Okay, that is a low speed uh, 2500 or 3000 size. So basically, uh, I found the 2500, which is actually better instead of a 3000. So they're about the same. It's just with a smaller spool. You can get a 3000 spool and put it on this body, and you'd be good to go. Another thing that I changed was actually the handle. So I switched to a longer handle. I had to look for. Hey, Mark! Holy crap! Sight for sore eyes. Okay, like your major craft jig para 10 gram on a spinning of bait caster or both. If you use 10-gram jig para on bait caster, then you're using a shallow spool. Not necessarily rock. Okay, so basically, if you're using a bait caster, it could be a shallow spool or a deep spool, but a shallow spool would enable you to cast lighter. What do you call this? Lighter jigs. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only way because like take for example you have BFS spool on regular Shimano BFS. It's not that shallow. Okay. In fact, I had to change it to something even shallower. Okay, so what do you call this? So it's not to say that you have to use like a shallow spool. It has a lot to do with the bearings. Okay, like if you look at the BFS, okay, the Conquest BFS, and you look at the bearings that it has, the bearings that it has is like so tiny, okay, because a smaller bearing is actually easier to turn. Okay, let me show you an example. Okay, so here is a very small swivel, right? You go like this, see, it spins really fast. Small swivel, okay, because it's a smaller size, Okay, and what happens is that it's a smaller circle. Now here's a bigger swivel. Okay, not as fast. Within her LT 2500. What's up, Eric? Wow, everyone's like here. Holy crap. When it's free falling on a bait caster, it doesn't matter, dude. You know, if it's light, okay, it's still the bearings. So you have smaller bearings and it will turn the spool. And remember that it already started up when you casted it out, so it's already moving. Granted that a shallower spool would probably give you a little bit more of because on a bait caster, when it falls, okay, it doesn't fall straight. It actually goes like this. It curves in towards you because of the drag that the spool creates. There's been a lot of research on this for freshwater bass fishing. So what do you call this? Line curl. Yeah. So uh, it doesn't matter honestly, especially with the lighter stuff. And I don't worry much about it. Um, I use, where is that damn thing here? Here, I still use 10 grams on this, and this is a deep spool. Okay, and this is the Conquest 200 HG. Yeah, this is a deep spool reel, and this has what, PE 1.5, and the rod that I pair it with is 7 to 35, so I can still cast it, and I've caught like Jesus, I've caught some big fish on that. Um, but yeah, I mean, when you cast it out, it's already, the most important thing is the bearing. If you like this one right here, okay, I've already swapped out the bearings. And most of the reels I have, I swapped out the bearings. See, the bearings are already like switched. Okay, and same with the spool as well. So um, one of the very first things I do is actually swap the bearings when I buy a reel, and it's just by practice because most of the time the bearings that they put on there is not that good anyway. So you know, it makes so much of a difference. But with reels like the BFS, like Rock, you actually asked really good questions. So and it's good for the community. Thanks so much for asking. So the bearing though, because it's smaller on some reels, like take for example, if you didn't notice, also shoot, I should have pointed that out. Like the bearing that I put on here is actually small, but I put it on spacers. Okay, and that's something that you should actually look at if you want to, what do you call this? See that's a spacer. So the bearing that's inside there is actually smaller, and then what makes up for the diameter is a spacer, and you can find this on places like Hedgehog and stuff, but they're not cheap. So what do you call this? The That's one of the ways to get around this big bearing, small bearing crap. Okay, I screwed up. See, every single time you mess around with the spool, what happens is that there's this one strand of braid that actually falls in. And when it falls in, you'll notice immediately because you won't be able to freely turn the reel, right? And then when you do it, when you finally turn it, you get screwed. So be very careful when you're messing around with this thing, right? So now it's out. It's just that one strand right there. It went in, and the tolerance for these reels is freaking amazing, man. It's just like a hair's width that's off, and then you'll feel it. You'll immediately feel it. You'll know that there's something stuck. So um, gotta hand it the Shimano technology and the production that they're doing. This reel was unmodified for a really long time. It was only after our trip. I went with the president of Studio Ocean Mark to the Philippines last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year. So we went last year, and then he wanted to catch like a um, snakehead, yeah, giant snakehead. And I had him use this reel, and then I used a different one. It's like an Abu Garcia inshore, but it was heavily modified. So when he cast it out, and then I casted after him, and he just goes, "Choo," and then I go, "Choo." So our lures were like, "Eek," and then mine was like way far, boom, and he just goes, "What the fuck, Kitsan?" And then I told him, "Oh, just lucky, lucky, just lucky." But then that's when I realized that this reel needed to be modified, and that was that. Is the LT only good for freshwater? No, I actually use it for jigging. Hold on, let me show it to you. Here it is. So I use it for this is 4 pound test braid, and I use it for like really light jigging, ultra light jigging. So I can use 10, 15 grams with this in deeper water, and I've caught like good fish. So basically, what I had to do with this, because it's a slow reel, right? And the longer handle makes a longer rotation, which further slows the reel down. So when you're jigging, right, instead of actually making a small, quick circle, right? See, because I'm making a bigger circle, it's slower. All right. So there's a difference between this and then that. You know what I mean? So also gives me a lot of leverage and control. So I changed the handle and the spool. There's a bearing that I switched here so that the spool is more stable because remember you're using it for a bit more heavy duty use. And I also switched the drag. So now it's a bit more powerful. Carbon Tex, and then if you look online, there's guys that actually do the same thing. Um, then just follow the instructions. Uh, Yeah, so Rock, if you're wanting to do something like this, okay, like if you're concerned about casting distance, and it's the same, yeah, casting distance, and then your drop rate and stuff, look into the spacers and then the bearings themselves. You have to look at what fits the reel. Each reel have like different bearing sizes and stuff, and then you can go to places like AliExpress and then find the stuff there. They should be, mine comes from Hedgehog Studio in Japan. I wouldn't recommend that place. It's like fucking an arm and a leg. There's reels here that I spent 750 on top of the reel, and then like my BFS reel one, I spent almost the same, I think. Um, the problem when you're modifying these things, especially since like for me, I was chasing after like something stupid. Uh, Umea, no, no, it's all aftermarket. Umea will never jeopardize their own shit. So they stick standard. Like even the spools, they're not they're not that sharp. Yeah, hedgehog is that's legit as can be, but it cost an arm and a leg. Like you know, um, I spent like $50 for one of these, like this, for one reel. And it's like that's so fucking stupid. But you know, um, it's so stupid, man. You know, it was so stupid, and all it was I was looking for the lightest parts possible, and the bearings and all this, so that I could cast 1 gram or less in a bait with a bait caster. That was it. What's up, Abdul? Hello, Mr. Telescopic Rod. So yeah, although Hedgehog is actually pretty good, it comes with a price, and holy crap, man, it's not cheap. You know, um, I think. Okay, there we go. Right. I think Hedgehog, if you are the type of guy that you're looking for something very specific, yeah, you can rise out your reel, man. You know, um, but it's one of those things I actually regret. Spending that much money on one reel, and then after everything, actually, I've done it several times. And then you realize that holy shit, why did I spend that much instead of actually just buying a better reel to start with? No, Abdul, it reminds me. I mean, I read the comments. Just FYI. Just FYI. So of course, I read the comments and I remember, or I try to remember, right? So, um I think the subject of modifying reels, it's also one of the reasons why I don't show stuff about that, or even fixing reels in the channel, because um you know it could be interesting for some people, but then for some it's not really applicable. I think, like, take for example, for me, the whole reason why I spent that much on that particular reel, or there's actually three reels that I spent on like that, but the reason was to have reels that would be able to cast small jigs and lures, right? But I already had this, so I could have bought like several of these, and but I was so insistent on having like a bait caster that could do the job of a spinning reel. I could have bought like really good rods, but no, Kit had to do the stupid shit. So that's what I did, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Now at that point, okay, at that point, I have to say, um, I was promoting stuff for work. So I had a bait caster to use, and then I had a spinning rod to use. It's something kind of um, ah no, Isaiah. Uh, the only complaint with Hedgehog is that it's expensive. Yeah, rock. I mean, that's. I mean, what can that's SLP works. Dude, anything that actually SLP is like Daiwa, right? And then Umea is like Shimano. So it's like whenever you're modifying stuff, and it starts with bearings. So you switch out the bearings, and then you'll find like you're getting a little bit more performance, and then you go like, you know what, maybe if I change the spool. And then you change the spool, and you have to change the brakes, and then after that you'll change to faster bearings, and then you'll, like, and before you know it, you'll have a Frankenstein of a reel. uh like what I did with my Calcutta BFS was very unusable for a really long time. Imagine that, because I modified it so much that even if I cranked up the brakes, it it doesn't cast well. So um, uh, I had to put my physics physicist and what do you call this? Well, I had to put my physicist hat on and actually look for a solution there, and and then I did. But you know, at the end of the day, I could have just used my 1000 Stella, and then got the same thing. And guess what? It's the same thing. It's so stupid. So for me, like, for someone who actually spent on at least three reels to like go full retard on parts and all this, like, dude, just buy a better tool or use the better tool. It's just a spinning reel. You know what I mean? If I like literally those between those three reels or three or four reels, I could have bought like two Stellas, you know? So, oh, Gary Yamamoto. You know what the funny thing is, Rock? And this is a lot of people don't realize this. And I find it so fucking funny, dude. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know about this lake in Texas. Like the biggest, most popular American brand soft plastics that revolutionized the whole soft plastics industry, okay, is Gary Yamamoto Bates. Would you agree? Would you agree with that statement? I think it revolutionized the just with the Senko alone. Okay, this mofo changed. He changed the way the soft plastics game is. It's like it literally. This is the biggest U.S. name in soft plastics. It's not even Nick Cream who invented the damn thing. Zoom's also pretty good. So is RoboWorm. There's a lot. Okay, so we're all in agreement, right? That this dude did this. He is the biggest and the most innovative, I would say. Right? That motherfucker's Japanese, man. Look at his fucking name, Yamamoto. That thing's JDM. Oh my god. I was like, shit, man. The most popular fucking American brand is still fucking JDM. Um, I read the article before. I read the article. It was like so. Uh, what do you call this? So interesting. What's up, Mike? Hey, 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 James, 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 James. There's Michael. Dude, I can understand though bass fishing. Like the appeal of bass fishing is not the fight of the fish; it's how to get them to bite. I think bass fishing is very cerebral. Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. He was a school teacher. That's correct. But man, that made him a fucking millionaire. But dude, think about it. Think about what I said, right? The most popular freaking soft plastics company in the US is still JDM. The fucker's Japanese, you know? Yeah, man. I mean, I bass fish, you know. Back home there's actually a few lakes that have bass. And dude, when I went, these guys didn't even know about senkos and stuff, and then I was the one who introduced the senko. And funny thing, in my part of the country, there's actually no bass, so I was using bass fishing techniques to catch snakeheads, and that's how I learned how to bass fish. And when the time came for me to catch bass, it was like exactly the same thing, the same techniques, and I was catching them, and they were like, "I thought this was your first time." I was like, "Yeah, technically, you know." So they're both predatory fish. They both feed on just about the same forage. There's some places where the snakeheads feed on um, crawdads, so you can use crawdads for those. A lot of places where there are frogs and man, frogging and stuff, top water and stuff like this, you know. Yeah. So like, okay, here's the thing, right? Here's I'm gonna share something with you guys that many of you probably already know. Okay, but if you do this, you would be able to work jigs, work top water plugs like these guys, the floaters and sinkers. Um, you'd be able to do sliding jigs. You'd be able to do um, like any sort of vertical jigs, even slow jigs. Okay, that there's only one technique you need to master. You mentioned Great Lakes. I would love to try slow jigging for walleye there. Rock, you can catch lake trout. Um, a friend of mine, okay, a friend of mine have caught zander, uh, pike, trout, lake trout, and what else? There was one more. There's perch. He's caught perch. I mentioned pike already, right? So I'd like at least those five, because he has a house in the Great Lakes, in the Canadian side, and he learned jigging from me. And we used to go jigging here in the Palm, and he used to live there. So I used to drive up to his house, hopped on his two-person Hobie, and then we would go, and that's how he learned basically. So uh, he took that technique to Canada, and he was like, "Dude, holy shit!" And guess what? He brought the 10-gram jig para as well, and dude, it worked like dynamite. If he's available, maybe down the line I can ask him to actually hop on the fishing chat, so we can talk more about that. There are a lot of scientists who study fish with government funds, and they post their data online. It's very good information to read and better understand fish behavior. I actually read up a lot about stuff, James, and those are like, yeah. So some of the resources that are available online is like freaking mind blowing. I'm a nerd, dude. I'm like a huge nerd. So all these things I read. Similar, I believe it is something. Drag, carbon fiber versus Duracross versus felt. Felt is a piece of shit, man. Don't use that. Okay, carbon is the way to go. Um, cork, some types of cork are also pretty good. Felt, forget it. No way. No, not even for light applications. The thing with felt is the only way it slips. The felt burns. Okay, for one of the things that you have to realize is that felt burns, and when you when you apply pressure, that's friction. Isaiah, that's friction. So what you could do, okay, especially for what do you call this, light tackle applications, is look for thinner carbon tex washers, and then use those. There's a lot that you can um for this reel. I actually ordered from China, and there's a dude that can cut you whatever dimension you want. So I had him do it. So basically, um it's all about surface area, and if you actually just kind of uh what do you call this, analyze things, it's very easy. Okay, so like take for example, you have a washer, and then it has a small hole where the shaft goes in, right? Now you have a choice of either having a full washer or just a sliver of that washer. So this has a sliver, it's not a full washer. Okay, cork washers are tricky rocks, because the problem with cork is that if you cut it on your own, there's several grades of cork. So if you can find like really good compressed washers, like thin ones, yeah, cool. But it's very difficult. I've tried, um what do you call this, I've tried like making my own in the past. Holy shit, man, that thing's not easy. Yeah, like even if you have like proper cutters, you know um they actually, if it's not done correctly, what happens is that when the washers turn, it actually powders up. And there are some really good ones that don't do that. But I found that a really good what do you call this? For especially for light line. We're talking light line, okay? So just so you guys actually know, um, you look for Teflon um, washers. Okay, so like take for example, if you take the stack out of here, you will find that there's carbon, there's washer, carbon, then there's a lock washer, and then carbon, and then like a stack. Okay, so what you do if you want a really nice, consistent, smooth drag, you take a, sliver washer instead of like a full washer. Okay, there's ones that you can get that are just slivers. Okay, so instead of like a full on washer, it's just Shimano does this. So you put that on the very bottom, just after one of the, what do you call this? So you need two of these, very thin, very thin. You have what do you call this? Cork has a low startup inertia. So when you use cork, especially on light line, it's much more forgiving, because instead of actually giving you immediate, let's say you have 1 pound drag, instead of actually giving you boom 1 pound, it actually eases in. It gives you like, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit before it goes 1 pound. No, man, no, you don't do that yourself, Isaiah. You actually look for guys that do it. Okay, so you have less surface area, and then you put another washer, and then you put a Teflon washer, and then another steel washer, and then Teflon washer, another steel washer, and then the very last one would be another one of these carbon washers. The Teflon makes it so it's slippery. So there's very little friction in between, and then on the top and the bottom you have like your washers. And then you'll have like really smooth, very dependable drag. But you don't cut them yourself, dude, unless you have the cutter, of course. But you use a plotter to cut it. You could do the same with cork. If you can find like a really thin piece that's um, what do you call this? It doesn't have a lot of pits. That's the most important thing, and it's very difficult to find high quality cork that doesn't have pits. But cork, I think for light tackle, way better, I would say. Interesting questions, guys. The startup is what I'm after. Never tried cork. Yeah, startup inertia for light tackle and fly is actually a big thing. Why do I have a love-hate relationship with Daiwa? Because I had really bad experience with Magseal stuff. So imagine having like a brand new Saltiga. You paid a shitload of money for it, and then after one use, the Magseal actually fucking broke, for God knows what reason. You know, one day it reeled in smoothly, and then the next it's so fucking stiff. Like, what the fuck? You just bought the damn thing, you know? So no. After that, I said like, fuck this bullshit. Like, imagine you have one, yeah, right? You literally just had it a few days. You use it, and then after like a few days, it's fucked. Like, why? And then they had to send it to France. So what the fuck am I supposed to use if it's in France, right? I mean, did they give me a loaner? No. Bullshit. But if you have if you and you can't open it yourself, right? So if I have a, what do you call this? If I have like a Stella, if something goes wrong, I'll open it. I know how to fix reels. So I like open it, see exactly what's wrong, boom, then I'm off. I could use it. So it's just so fucking stupid. Now, if you're in a place like, take for example, you're in Australia that have really good service, yeah, fine. But dude, I'm in the Middle East. They send it to fucking Europe. Bullshit. Any guys make custom cork drags? You know what? The best way is for you to actually look into the fly fishing forums, and there are a bunch of really cool guys. Okay, so look into like real drags and stuff like that, and then more than likely you'll find guys that are actually, doing cork washers. But that's the place to look. Isaiah, you're quite technical, dude. For spinning, yes. For spinning, yes, 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 yes. We're talking spinning. Like, when it comes to ultralight fishing, I default to spinning. Because if it's ultralight bait casting, it's not going to be ultralight, right? It's BFS. I have done that. Actually, I just made a live yesterday where I tied a fly. But I have done that in the past, Rock. And actually, I was the first one to start the trend on this fancy looking assist hooks. They're not heavy enough to throw, but I have made flies on jig heads, fly jigs, and fucking a man, those work. Like, if how many, actually, you know what, there's actually a video of me that I shared, but I can share like a really fancy one if you guys are into that, like shrimp looking thing. Isaiah, super into physics and mechanics. Yeah, man. Nerd. And it's good to see like guys that are like that, because guess what, we're not many of us out there, dude, not many of us out there. I'm telling you, holy shit, if someone actually fucking tells me like nerd, I just smile and like, yes I am, you know especially when it comes to fishing, right? It's like, how could it not be? One of the guys that really influenced me when it comes to that sort of thinking is actually Peter Pakula. You know, if and we're gonna have him here. I still have to like fuck. See, the thing is, he left it to me to decide on a schedule. So if I told him like, Pete, let's go right now, he'd probably go. But Peter, okay, um, what do you call this? With Peter, ever since I was a kid, right? He would talk to me like an adult. That's the thing with Pete. He never really pulled back punches and shit. So if I had like an idea and I pass it through him, and if it wasn't practical, he'd fucking tell me just downright. And then um, uh, he always based everything on um, data that would be replicable, not only for like for him but for everyone else. He relies so much on actual data. So yeah. um it has to do with the temperature of the water and the type of material. Best materials come from animals for clumps in warm water. Actually, you know what, here's the thing, right? For majority of the flies that you actually tie, um, I think everyone who ties flies heavily would actually um, agree with me when I say that when it comes to James, not really a bucktail, like literally a fly tied on a bucktail, or no, 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 no. Uh, literally a fly tied on a jig head, so you could cast it out. So I think most fly tires would agree, if not all. I'm confident that everyone would actually fucking agree. When it comes to tying natural materials, they're actually a pleasure to tie with. I love tying with bucktail, although it's messy. I love tying with bucktail. It's so fucking easy. Um, However, when you're tying saltwater flies, one thing that you actually have to look into is the durability of the fly. And although synthetics are a bitch to work with, they're actually the top choice when it comes to saltwater flies. Obviously, you can't replicate bucktail, you can't replicate feathers and stuff like that. But there are material that are pretty close to it. Like take for example the Puglisi fibers, DNA from my mentor. Uh, he passed away, Earl. You know, so there's a lot of materials that actually can replace something like bucktail and stuff, and they're more durable. You know, so um, for put it this way, for my personal flies, I don't mind tying like um, what do you call this? I don't mind tying like natural stuff, but I know they're not gonna last. Like a few fish and they're gone. But um, that's for me. But if I'm actually giving it to friends or having them use it, and then for reliability, I'd go to synthetics. They're just like they almost last forever. What the hell? Jesus H Christ, man. Whoa, that freaked me out. I just received like a message on my phone, and it was from the Road Transport Authority. And usually when you get like a when you get like a notice from them, it's a fine. So what I was like scared shitless. Like what? Uh, and it was a notice that parking was actually free today because it's a holiday here in the UAE, or in the Middle East actually. It's the Prophet Muhammad's birthday. Yes, natural materials degrade easily. Holy crap, man! I have a ton. I still have a ton of fly fishing material. Um, Let me show you guys. So there's those boxes right there, right? Those boxes there. See those green boxes? So those, right? And then those ones on top stacked, those are all fly tying material. And then some of those boxes on the bottom there, those two big boxes at the back are reels. And then there's other fly tying material there. So I still have a lot, and I haven't been tying flies, so not been using them up. But a lot of fishing stuff that I have. I have like jigs outside that I have to organize. There's so much stuff that I need to do here, honestly. And if the weather wasn't as hot as it is, I would probably like um Dave's amazing, man. Like this guy is legit one of the best like fly tires on earth. And there's a forum, right? There's a forum where fly tires converge. It's called Dan Blanton's fishing boards or fly tying board, and that's like the longest running fly fishing community on earth, right? And I used to hang out there a lot and stuff. And then Dave didn't know anything about the forum, so when he first joined in, he just goes like, he joined and then he introduced himself like, "Hi guys, this and this and this and that." And then everyone was like, "Hey, it's Dave Heiss, da 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 da." And then like literally Dan Blanton, who is like the father of, he's like Lefty Cray. He's like a father of, he's one of the most prolific fly tires in the world. And he's invented so many of the flies that we're using today. Flies like the Whistler and all that. Um, yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of parallels, to tell you honestly, with jigging, fly tying, and all this, fly fishing, like any sort of fishing, really. There's a lot of parallels. But when Dave introduced himself, and then Dan saw like, everyone, he welcomes everyone and stuff, and then and then they were like, "Hey, Dan, you should check out what Dave ties." So when when Dan literally check Dave out, he just goes like, "Holy crap!" He's one of those, like, very secret, not really secretive, but like Dave's kind of a loner. He keeps to himself and stuff. So if you know him, you know him, but he keeps himself scarce. So I won't forget what Dan actually said, like, "Hey Dave, welcome. I understand you're a hell of a tire. I've seen your work like wow, so getting a compliment from one of the fathers of fly fishing and fly tying, that's like, I'm just a friend, and when I saw it I was like, whoa, that's cool. you know so if you're into fly fishing, tying flies, and if you want to see how the envelope is actually pushed, the Dan Blantum forum is where it's at. you know and there's a lot of learning there. And when I first started out, I asked a lot of questions. Most of them obviously were answered, and then there were very regional specific questions, that I answered myself, obviously. But there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of good folks. Actually, um, what do you call this? Isaiah. That's probably a forum that you want to check out. Just ask the guys there where you could find like a cork sheet, or if anyone can cut a cork sheet for you for drags. I just, wow, that just totally connected itself right there. Because there's a lot of guys there that you know that know stuff. You know what I mean? Um, but James, um, let me see. Like down the line, maybe I'm gonna do some of those. That what do you call this? You know, um, a very interesting thing. Fly jig, bucktail, right? And then you can actually make it look like a squid. So something that you can cast on a bait caster or spinning setup. It's a bucktail, right? But it kind of looks like a squid. That's one. Another one would be if you make it look like a shrimp, and that's something that I actually, Dan Blanton. Let me get you the link. I still have it here. Uh, need my freaking glasses. It's the Dan Blanton bulletin board. So you registered, dude. It's super old school, man. Super old school. But go on there and then ask, because you'll find like all sorts of like really like, man, brings me back. Like one of the things that I really wanted to do was actually fish with Dan, because he was guiding before. You know, like all these greats, they're leaving us. We've lost Flip just like a couple of weeks ago and stuff, and you know that's one of my regrets, is um, not having to talk to him for one last time, which I should have. Shit. The last time I messaged him was actually New Year's. You know. Ah. Anyway, but yeah, Flip's another guy, obviously, for fly fishing and light tackle. So very good resource for me before. If I had like a question I got stuck, instead of actually uh, trying to figure it out on my own, you know, I would I would just ask him, or I'd ask the forum right here. There are a lot of legends here in what do you call this? In the Dan Blanton forum. No, man, return that, Michael. That's not natural at all. You deserve like what? Like, dude, it's smooth. It's supposed to not make a sound at all. It's super smooth. So, return that. That's that's not a good unit. It's not. It doesn't. It should not make like a sound. That's Eric. Nah, there we go. I was like, what? You have the same one, and then you go like, what the hell? It's making a sound. Like, nah, man. Return it. Return it. It shouldn't make a sound. It should be like super smooth. A little bit of force just turns it and stuff. Very little startup inertia as far as your reeling is concerned, but it should not make a noise. The only thing that makes a noise would be you giggling like a fucking little girl. That's the only sound you should be hearing when you first turn it. That's it. But no sound other than that. Like I remember this with the first time. Yeah, I mean, I think that's for the first time that I've ever held a Stella, right? A 1,000 sized Stella, and it wasn't even mine. But it was the first ever time in my life that I have held a reel so smooth, and that was it. It was me and the friend, and we were reeling it in, passing it together. And like we did that for a few hours, and we were just laughing, giggling like little girls, like, "Oh my god, it's so smooth!" And then and pass it on to him, like, "Oh my god." So yeah, that's like it's crazy how smooth these reels are. I mean, it's like crazy, crazy, crazy. So imagine like a Vanquish or a Stella, because the TPXD is not the top end for MGL Magnum Light. You know, if you actually go and check out like a Vanquish, and you'd be like, "What the fuck? The box is heavier than the reel." And then when you reel it in, that's when you see why. Do you see the point of why the Magnum Light uh, reels exist? Because the the rotor just moves. When you're turning it, it's just so easy to turn. Like, look at this. When you're doing this, it's like it's because it's not one of those, right? But a Magnum Light rotor top end reel, holy moly! When do you like using a dual knob handle on spinning reel? uh why are they on eggy combos? Because when you're doing eggy, right, a lot of people actually let go of the rod or the reel handle, and then they whip, right? They go like reel and then so that's the stroke. So having one handle there after the stroke, you have to go like this to grab it. Whereas if you have two, you know that it's always going to be there. It's really just a practical use thing. Um, I've tried it, man. It feels weird, so I just don't. You know, even when I go egging, I stick with one handle. You know, um, not really specialized in egging. So although my wife tells me I should catch squid, and we don't have squid here. We have cuttlefish, but there are places here in like facing the ocean that have squid. So yeah, maybe down the line it's one of those things that I have a cheap eggy rod. And that's it. I don't have like a fancy eggy rod. Also, I want an eggy rod to be like longer, and I like mine's short. John Boyle, I bought a new Saltiga 18,000 for this upcoming Vanuatu trip, and I was surprised at the effortless feel of the startup. John, congratulations and fuck you. You're one of the lucky ones to actually, get a new reel in this kind of economy. So wow. Congratulations. And yeah, a heartfelt fuck you. You've made like a half a dozen people jealous. Congrats, man. It's actually a very good reel, you know. Uh, but 18,000, dude. That's so big. That's so big. Yeah, the most expensive L80. Holy shit. Labworks. I just grabbed a new Saltiga 35 jig. What is up with you? What is wrong with you people? Why are you like on a buying spree in this economy? Holy shit. That's like three people right there. There's Eric, there's John, and then Labworks, like one after another. Shredded like shredded Ika jerky in a bag. Ooh, man. I love squid, you know. Um, it's just that I cannot have them. or not. I mean, I could taste, but I can't have them a lot because the doctor told me not to. I think they have like a lot of cholesterol. But my wife, she's been asking for calamari. Um, so yeah, chili cuttlefish salad. Ooh, you know what? That sounds like a good idea, huh? I might catch one soon. I might hunt for one soon, and then after that, but if I did that, I'm gonna take you guys. I don't know, Isaiah, but the doctor told me like one of the things he asked me to uh to stay away from. I asked. He didn't ask me. He told me. Was squid and cuttlefish. And I think if you look, cuttlefish would have a bit more. Um, Cuttlefish would have a bit more cholesterol. No, no, no. Like sodium, not even sodium. Lab works. You know, um, this doctor of mine is well, he's the one who operated on me, so I have no choice but to listen to him. But the other doctor I have in my life, I used to beat up, right? But when it comes to medicine and stuff like that, I trust him. Other people call him Dr. Belen. I call him my younger brother. So when it comes to other things other than medicine and stuff like or health in general, I don't really listen to him. You know, for other things, but for when it's in his expertise or area of expertise, I just go like, okay, yes, sir. You know, build rods and grabbers. I mean, it's a good deal, dude. I think that's a good deal. But I think after the procedure with the stents and everything, I had no choice. And it's been, I mean, I try to be as good as possible. Okay. Like, take, for example, I don't eat pork as much. Before, it was like, kind of like part of the diet. So I have pork probably once or twice a year or just taste it. You know what I mean? That's like a lot of cholesterol. So that's like one of the joys we have as Filipinos is this dish called lechon. Okay, um, I'm gonna show you guys. And this thing, you have like in celebrations and stuff, right? So, um, uh, and um, and this type of stuff we we love it, like celebrations, birthday gatherings and stuff like that. So in the New Year's and Christmas time, I actually cook this. And the way I cook it is from like dude, no dipping sauce, man. Rock, like where I'm from in Cebu, we have the best lechon. And if your lechon requires dipping sauce, you're a fucking loser. In Cebu, you don't need dipping sauce. That's it. Some people have vinegar and stuff like that, but like for us, it's just steamed rice, lechon. Ah, if you do it right, that's all you need. Yeah. So there we go. If he's from Cebu, he would know what he should know what I'm talking about. Cebu lechon, like from Talisay specifically, or Karkar. Actually, Karkar's pretty good, but Talisay, in a place called Talisay, the lechon there is the best. Uh, I eat heaps of fish and chicken. Lab works, yeah, that's cool, man. And that's kind of like what my diet is these days, like fish and chicken. But or actually, you know what? Today we're having ceviche. I'm gonna make I'm gonna make ceviche for my cousin because they're coming over. His family. He's actually gonna check my video editing software and fix it, get it up and running. So hopefully he's able to. What else? Like the guys, if you get around to it, try the recipe that I posted for the tuna head and collars, you know, because you'd be surprised of how good it is. You'd be very surprised. Like holy crap, between my wife, daughter, and our nanny, holy shit, they finished that thing, and that wasn't small. They finished that thing so fast, and I was actually quite surprised. Sugar, salt, garlic, butter, pepper, uh, it's garlic powder. Pepper is very important. If you're putting anything that gets smoked, you always put sugar. You put like some like chili powder on it. That's pretty good as well. Or if you can find like Cajun seasoning, you can also put that in. Depends on what flavor you're after, but you know um, just even salt, pepper, sugar, garlic, and butter. Just that. I think the butter is what does it really, and it has to be unsalted butter. Yeah, yeah, cheeks. Yeah, you know. And for some men, ass cheeks. Ah, here's actually, um, one of the questions that I got asked recently, and I've answered this. Okay, um, so this is from Rising Double Ranch. He says, like, I noticed that sometimes you put super glue on the base layer when I'm tying assist hooks, and then finish the bindings and then add more at the end. Other times you use super glue in final assembly. Is there a reason for choosing one method or another? I think this is something that a lot of people ask about, right? Speaking of gay fish and pink lures, smoked yellowfin tuna lab works really good, man. The tuna head, oh, cool, dude. Um, like the fish here, they love pink, so there's no other way to explain that other than they're gay. Noodle dish, wow. Not with UV, but it has a lot to do with infrared, because what happens is that red actually disappears in the first few meters of the water, the wavelength red. But the funny thing is, it actually, when it gets deep, when it goes down deep, it actually turns into black. So the blackest black doesn't come from the color black when you drop it down. You actually get it from red. Okay, so then this is the reason why seafloor control uses red on the bindings and the line assist cord that they use, because in the depths it actually masks the whole thing. $200. What the hell? Really? That's expensive. Holy shit, that's expensive. Like in the Philippines, that's 10,000 pesos or more for a small pig. Holy crap. Like, I don't think it's $200 here. I think it's cheaper here too, because I used to buy like small, like piglets for Christmas, and then for the New Year's I actually use um, like grown belly slabs, right? And then I just stuck to belly slabs after. It's easier to manage like those piglets. What I really hate is burning the ears and the tail. Kareem, good morning. Bencho. Okay. When is violet or purple good to use? Depends on the fish. Like for trolling lures, violet and black is actually, or purple is actually really good for wahoo. You know. Other than that, you use it for queenfish and kingfish because purple is the color of royalty. I don't use purple a lot, tell you honestly. Um, I've had good results on a full moon with purple, yes, but then black, brown, I've also used with good results. Yeah, white is always good anytime, Rock. White is the best color there is. Purple also. Like I have not tried purple on really clean water to tell you honestly. I prefer pink as well, Soji. Like for me, it was funny because my salesman before is a really good friend of mine. Also, we fished together. The only other Filipino that I used to fish with here, um, he would choose like chartreuse and all these green colors and stuff. He hated pink, and then I hated green and all the mutations. So green, like green sardine, mackerel colors and all that. I fucking hate them, like even till this day with like a passion. And he would always choose those, and like chartreuse he would choose, but he would never ever choose pink, reds, pinks, and all that. And those are my colors. I'd use a lot of reds, I use a lot of pinks. We both caught fish. So it's like, cholesterol. Do you like tripe? Fuck yeah, I used to eat a lot of tripe, man. Like kare kare. It's like what do you call this? In our what do you call this? My wife makes a mean kare kare. You want color contrast with moon phase at night. Can't go wrong with black or white colors for this purpose. Night ajing mebaru. Yeah. For ajing, I like white and glow. Those are my two main colors. And it doesn't matter what kind of conditions there are. Are we going to talk about the beast of a rut tuna fishing the other day? No. Goldfish. I've heard a lot about fisherman's red tail 60 for jigging monsters, but never find one in any shop. Uh, I don't know. I actually don't know about this rod. Is fishing in the morning better full moon than new moon? Does it matter at all? No, doesn't matter. I recently bought an all glossy black popper, poisoned into buying the sales guy. What do you think? Black poppers? Hold on. I'm gonna show you guys what I'm doing here in a bit. But once you see this, it's like a mess, man. So I'm just trying to take off a lure here. All right. So black popper. Okay. One of the best colors for this popper, one of the best sellers is this one. All right. This is something that I made. Actually, caught a lot of fish on. Okay. And of all the colors I chose, it's this one. Now, this is the drawer I pulled them out from. Right. That's just one of the drawers that I have that that I have to deal with. So whenever I pull out something that what do you call this? I have to show you guys. I have to deal with that crap. Do you go jigging even if it's windy? Yes. What do you feel is the maximum wind speed you risk going out. Depends on how crazy you are. Like we've gone out to international waters when we didn't have a choice, and we actually had one of the best days of our lives fishing. Do you do a different style of fishing of like yeah, it depends, the last time we went out in that video, it was actually quite windy, and we were casting for tuna, and we were jigging. So yeah, it depends. Zakaria, Karim, Karim, are you there? Zakaria, can I land 50 plus kg offshore tuna with pen spin fisher it with on a 3 meter extra heavy rod? Zakaria, a three offshore 3 meter rod, okay, that fish will pull you off the boat. Okay? So this is your rod, this is you. Okay? That's a lot of bend. Now on a shorter rod, okay, you have more control. So a 3 meter rod on a boat is a very bad idea. Lab works exactly. No, if you want to, maybe he's using it for maybe he's using it for like what a outrigger. Guncraft. No, no. Yeah, sure, jigging, Zakaria. That's a different type of fishing. On a boat, you want a smaller or a shorter rod. 80-150 rod is still capable of working light jig. Uh, it's capable of working anywhere between 80 and 150. Biggest now is 7.6. Yeah, I mean, a castable one, 7.7, 7.6 for big stuff, like up to a 30,000 sized reel. Labworks. I think that's kind of like the norm. Guncraft, I think I had some like one of their soft plastics before, but I'm not into their stuff. You know, Zacharias on a cruise liner. Abdul, be nice. You know, he uses it for shore jigging. Regular adobo or adobong alamang. Lots of people in live chat during this time frame. I didn't even know. Oh yeah, yeah. We have 19 people on here. Wow. And it is around midday. Okay, it's a good thing to know. Uh, Tuna fishing in Morocco? No, I haven't been to Morocco. Much less actually, go tuna fishing there. I live and work in the United Arab Emirates. Hey, Isaiah, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you the one looking for a long rod, like a really long rod? I remember someone actually asking on one of our streaming sessions. I remember someone asking on one of the streaming sections, forget who, if I knew of a really long rod for shore fishing, and I actually found one. Ah, Rock. So it was you? It's not a full solid blank. Um, Affordable jigging rod. Are you jigging, or do you want casting? And also, what kind of jigs are you going to be looking at? Rock. Let me find the rod. Okay. Hold on. It's a Shimano, actually, and it's light. Okay. Rod. Okay. It's here. Uh, Mm, Jeez, where is it? Hold on. There it is. We should be able to search for it. Where is that thing? I think this is the one. Ah, here it is. Yep, yep, yep. Alrighty. Let me see the specs again. It's 13 feet. I don't know if that's long enough. It's spinning. There we go. Ay! Why is it an error? Shuhada. Let me shorten it. See if it works. Uh, there we go. Try this. Try that. Okay. Not too sure where you can buy that though. But I mean, it's a Shimano, and there's a 12 foot, and then there's a 13 foot, and they're three piece. So these are all like long casting rods. So minnow casting, jigs, and all that, you know, can do it. Wait. Casting weight, like jig weight is like max 70, 50 gram plugs, up to max 2.5. So not bad, and the price isn't so bad as well. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know whether we've tried a spot long enough. We're normally four people jigging. We do drift, but sometimes don't cover too much ground depending on wind and current. Um, jeez, yeah, you know, um, the thing is, right? You have to make a judgment call, Soji. You know, and also it's very difficult to have four captains on board. You know, so I would say that if zero Estacio jigging rod, Zakaria, I'll tell you this, okay? Go and look for a uh, okay, hold on. Let me see here. Ah, go and look for an Ikuda, okay? Ikuda, it's a Chinese brand, but they have really good experience in making like fast jigging rods. Okay, so of all the Chinese brands that I actually tried, I literally bought two rods from Ikuda, and I'm very happy with both of them. Okay, so um, I would say look for an Ikuda, okay, that fits your reel, um, and you should be okay. And it's a properly made rod instead of having something that's like a weird brand or something. I literally study their charts as much as possible using translation from Google. Yeah, yeah. So Colt Sniper, this particular one's actually pretty good. I asked around, so people that actually have used them, and they said that they're light. It doesn't. When you're using them, they said it actually doesn't feel as if it's 13 feet. The longest I've used is actually 12. So any longer than that, it's like uncharted territory for me. There's ways of using a 9 foot rod for large fish. Look into jig stick fishing in San Diego. They use the rail as fulcrum point. James, yeah, there's people like that, but it's very specialized, and you know, but for someone who what do you call this? Not really practical. We're fishing on my boat, so I normally make the call to move or not. But sometimes I don't know whether committing a longer time at one spot is better than covering many spots for a shorter time. Uh, Electronics, and then, you know, uh, like literally knowing what to drop and how you what do you call this? Uh, um, how you can maximize your drops, Soji, right? So, like, take for example, instead of fast jigging, slow jigging will actually get you um, a lot more, I would say, time underneath. And if they don't link, or if they don't, what do you call this? If they don't actually strike, then kind of like it's you know that they're not there. Again, electronics to give you like a clue, you know. Goldfish. What are all the countries you fished? Wow, do I have to submit my resume? Abdul, what link? Link for what? California's visitor fishing licenses are so expensive. Um, yeah, well, but if you're visiting and then you're fishing, what more can you do, right? Otherwise, you do like a lot of people do, like do it illegally. Like for me, I'd have to go through the motions, right? If I'm fishing, I'd like to be like as legal as possible, but also I would probably I would probably choose what I want to do carefully. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean the states, you see where you actually put your money in, like for fishing licenses and all that. You actually see where it's going. In the Philippines, taxpayers' money, you see it as well. In some people, like what we're seeing now, the money actually goes to the contractors that do all these projects. So, you know, 43, 48 luxury cars and shit. The link to the Ikuda rod. I don't have a link, but the brand itself, you know what I mean? So if you can actually look at Ikuda, let me give you the website, okay? And it's in Chinese, but gives you an idea. And then after that, what you could do is actually look for the dealer, right? The dealer in your country, because um, they have dealers. They have dealers. And of all the Chinese rods, this one actually takes the cake, because I've tried a lot of Chinese rods. Oh man, my God, man, I test a lot of these things, because at the end of the day, you're always in a lookout for like good rods and stuff. The only thing I don't like about them is that they're kind of on the heavy side. So as far as if you're comparing them to like the JDM rods, right? The weight is what makes it different. These are like these are more like the older, what do you call this? More like the older, what do you call this? More like the older style Japanese rods. But they're good. They're good. I mean, I have to say, they're actually like quite impressive. Like I literally have two, and I don't know where one is, which is kind of worrying. But yeah, my fast jigging rod before, I spent some time with an Ikuda, like probably a good 6 months or so, like using it. And I paired it with the reason why I went to a Chinese rod is because I paired it for fast jigging. I paired it with an accurate reel that I've had for a really long time. So I paired it with that, and man, it works so well. Holy crap! Like the accurate is a bit modified, and I put a longer handle on it. and it took me a while to actually get it to a state where I liked it. um Together with the rod, like every single person that I actually passed it on to and say like, here, try it, they are so surprised because the rod and reel just worked really well together. And especially the reel, or especially the rod, sorry, we're talking about the rod, especially about the rod, they could not believe that it was a Chinese rod. But here's the problem: I went through 20 rods at least for one rod to choose the best one there is. And it's the same thing with the other rod. I also went through the whole stock that they had there to choose the one that I have. And I actually discussed this in one of the videos. Julio Valiente, hey, what's up? Where in the Philippines, Julio? From where in the Philippines? It is now 3 3:40. Oh, Palawan. Wow, nice. I don't want to go there. Are you superstitious when it comes to fishing? Um, uh, Geez, am I? No, I don't think so. My dad was. I'm not superstitious. My dad was. My dad was so freaking superstitious. He would take coins, right? He'd throw them because he said like he's buying fish instead of catching them, right? And he had like these weird things, especially when he was fishing freshwater, you know. But boy, can he fish! That guy could fish, man. You know. By the way, Soji, ask your dad for the funny story about my phone and my dad. Just what do you call this? Ask your dad. Ask him. Just say like, is there a funny story with Kit and his dad and his phone? And your dad will tell you to say, your dad's probably gonna start laughing the moment you ask him that. But ask your dad. So guys, if you didn't know, Soji, okay, his dad's actually my fishing buddy back home. So what do you call this? Like a very very good friend of mine. And Shoji, he well, kind of grew up around us, obviously. You know, learned a little bit from me. But yeah, his dad's like my fishing buddy, and my God, we had like really good times, really funny times. But yeah, superstitious, like bananas and stuff. I don't believe that. Actually, there's a friend of ours, like my godfather, actually, in my wedding. He would consider bananas to be very lucky, and we used to fish the pier 1 in Cebu a lot. That's like my dad's haunt. And there'd be like these vendors that would go around. uh yeah, Soji, you did all the hard work. I can't take credit for that, to tell you honestly. You're doing all of you guys. I would say that I'm just a guy who talks, and then all of you guys, you do all the hard work. So no one can ever take that away from you. And if I shared something that actually worked, great. I'm glad to be of use, or glad to be part of your fishing journey. Glide baits. I'm trying to remember the specific one. It's from Storm. But yeah, glide baits, but not so much in saltwater. But when we were testing out this glide bait, the reason why I actually remember this is because we were testing out the rod that I designed, and we were tossing out this glide bait, and like a really big grouper actually went up and checked it out. But I haven't had a chance to actually use a glide bait, like really fish with it, in like say for bass or something, but um, or even any sort of glide bait really. Wait, 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 wait. That's a lie. Because you know what? There are lures that are can be considered glide bait. Like the subwalk is a glide bait. Yeah, I've used a subwalk, and that's a glide bait. Yeah, yeah. So I have used a glide bait, and then there's also the mullet, the small one. I've used that. I've caught like a lot of snapper on that, and some brim, queenfish. Subwalk I've used on tuna, dorado, but I don't like them too much because they're too light. But like a specific, like the glide bait, like as like the jointed glide bait, the one from Storm that we were testing out. Yeah, 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 yeah. But it's lipless. But there's one specifically from Storm that's really like labeled glide bait, and we were testing it out. It was one of KD's designs, and man, one thing just went up. Yeah, basically taught me everything about jigging. Whenever I jig with my OSHA jigger, not bothered to keep the line neat. So now it's a mess. Any tips? When you're jigging, right? You're using it, right? And at the end of the trip, you drop it. You drop all the line as much as you can, and that's when you actually kind of wind it perfectly. So after each trip, there should be a drop where you're dropping all of the line that you used, and then you reel it in, and that's when you level it. And that's the easiest way of doing it because, like for me, I actually know how to level it while I'm using it. So that's the way. So biggest thing is after everything, after the trip, just before you pack up, drop it down as much as you can, and you'll reach the line where it's level. Stop it and then level the line slowly. Then that's it. um do you know that talking to half ripe bananas like 2 hours before a boat trip will actually prevent seasickness? I had no idea, Abdul. I i i i don't like bananas, so I didn't have to deal with them. The smell actually makes me nauseous. I don't know if anyone asked before. Have you ever been in Turkey? No, especially Istanbul. No, we are fishing for bluefish in Bosphorus. A different way you should check out. I always like seeing like new fishing styles and methods. So down the line, if I'm able to go to Turkey, I'll hit you up and then show me, because I'm always like curious about my curiosity is always seeing a fishing method and seeing if I can apply it elsewhere, to catch something else. A lot of your videos help. I thought I know enough, but it turns out that I'm still learning. Thank you. Uh, well, I'm only glad to share, so all good. Do you free rig soft plastics in the salt? Always with a jig head. There's only a few instances where I actually just have like a hook, like a worm hook, like a wide gap, uh, like EWG hook, right? There's only a few instances where I actually use it. Um, Mostly with Senkos, actually, oddly enough. Senkos and flukes. But these are on shallow water scenarios, in shallow water scenarios. And also, hold on. Let me show you just so you guys know that it's not no BS, okay? So this is a light tackle box that I take with me, okay? So in here I have uh this is like so I have these types of jig heads, okay? And then I have smaller jig heads. Okay, and then I have lures like this one from Fish Arrow, right? Uh, See these tie rubber looking things here. This is a chino ball. Okay, I have like small swim baits and stuff. So this is kind of like an all around thing. I have these are cheburashkas, uh, that, and then I have heavier jig heads here from Owner football jig heads. Okay, so several types of soft plastics and stuff. But what I want to show you guys, which is really important, and then if you actually find these things, because they're kind of tricky to find, okay? These are the ones that I use for free lining, and this is like literally just hooks. Okay, it's either like very small hooks, such as these, okay, tiny hooks. Okay, I believe that was a mosquito. And then um, there's like also obviously the what do you call this, the heads, the swimming head, swimming hooks. It's basically a worm hook with a weight on the bottom, and then there's several sizes of that. But the soft plastic I wanted to show you guys that I would say that is very useful, and this is salt water, mind you, okay, is this. Okay, that is a mini senko, and I carry like quite a few of these in different colors and stuff. Okay, um and guys, Jesus H, man, just try them, like especially in shallow water when there's like fish all like spread out and stuff. Just freaking try them, and then you'd be so surprised. um Worm hooks, yeah, yeah, it's a love and hate thing, man. Either you like them or you don't. J hooks, they're good and all that, all, what do you call this, um standards and stuff. But there are sometimes where you actually need to do them uh weedless, and that's that. Is it true that during full moon there's less bites? It depends on the time of the full moon. Full moon is it could make or break. A lot of the people that actually know how to fish full moon, they will tell you that it's as good as the new moon. The thing with all of this is literally current. That is it, and dealing with that current. It's either current really strong or zero current, and you have to know how to deal with these situations. And it's also different if you have a boat, or you're on a boat and you're not. I don't know if this is a problem or not, but I feel like I bring too much gear on the boat. Yeah. Is there such a thing as too much, or is it better to be ready for all sorts of conditions and space allows? Okay, so G, think about this scenario. Okay, when I go out with either the owner of Barracuda or his son. Okay, think about that statement. I go out with the literal owners of a tackle shop, and not just a tackle shop, but the biggest in the region. Okay, so if if you think about it, by extension, you would think that there's going to be a shitload of gear on the boat. But no, a boat, when you go out, should have the least clutter possible. Okay, and it's not just what you're taking. You should know exactly what you should be doing, and you should only take the stuff that you need. If you go out and you don't have the stuff that you need, that's not the fault of the boat. That's your fault for not knowing what to take. Okay, so the best advice I could give you is literally choose which one you want to do. Okay, choose whatever you want to do, and only do that. That's it, and that's the fastest way to learn. And then after that, you would find that if you take, for example, you're going fishing, and you said like, I'm going jigging. You only take jigging rods. Okay, and then you'll find that within that span of time that you're spending on jigging, you'd find that you're only using two rods instead of five, right? And then six lures instead of a dozen. And that what happens is that you take those what you've chosen, and you add something to it. So for us, we made it in such a way that when we go out, we're already prepared for fast jigging, slow jigging, and casting. These are the three disciplines that we know that are what we're gonna do at any given time, unless we actually agree on a marlin trip, which everything is kind of ditched, and then we have all the big stuff, because you don't want to be carrying around stuff you're not going to use anyway. So like the last trip, um it was all casting gear, so I didn't bring jigging gear and all that, right? So that's that. So you have to really choose. You have to know, and the only way of knowing is by eliminating or fishing a specific discipline, and then eliminating those that are not necessary, and then that's it. You dedicate yourself to, um, what do you call this, you dedicate yourself to, um, a certain type of fishing, let's say for a few months, until you actually learn your system in and out, and then move on to the next, and then just take the stuff that you're needing most of the time, and then that's it. Do you think any like live bait trolling for amberjack snapper? Yeah, on a kayak, fishing with live bait, catching kingfish and all that. On In deeper water, we've done trolling for amberjacks and stuff with my late friend Hisham. So we were catching amberjacks as well. We've caught amberjack, really big kingfish and all this. You need a downrigger, and you need to know how to use that damn thing. Otherwise, it's so difficult. How are you hooking them? Presentation. Jig heads, Isaiah. So you're talking about the Senkos, right? So jig heads are one. On that one hook, also a really thin hook. It depends on the presentation, right? So something like this. I don't rig wacky. So it's either this, and then I put it on here on the thick end like that. Okay. So and then manipulate it like that. Um, Jig heads, uh, different types of jig heads, obviously, and then also worm hooks, and just worm hooks without weight. So it depends on the scenario. So like take for example, if I'm fishing weedy areas and stuff like that, I would use like a weedless presentation, cast it to the weeds, and actually like kind of work it like I do for snakeheads. And you catch all sorts of fish, man. It's not it's I mean, it's always a mixed bag when it comes to these things. But I've caught like a shitload of grouper, like tiny grouper like that in shallow water, just pitching it in the rocks and swimming it. It's fun, like on light tackle, obviously. Full moon water is high, yes, but it kind of depends. uh Four rods only, like four is a good number, you know and usually for me it's either three or four, but yeah, that's about sounds right. It's a comfort number, isn't it? Labworks, it's really comfortable just having four, right? Or three. Like three, sometimes it depends. Like last time I had three. um but if I had to take a fourth one, it would have been a jigging rod, which Faisal, told me, oh, no jigging today, so I didn't take the jigging rod. But yeah, three or four, like, pretty good. JDM is rated for its versatility and adaptability. I think you could go as lean as possible. There is no such thing as having too much gear, but uh, taking too much gear, yes, definitely. Like the thing that I hate about taking too much is the cleaning bit, you know. So like 3 4 rods for me it's okay, but then, you know, the cleaning part, holy shit, man. uh the assist tying videos, they're all they're actually they're actually all pretty good, Sarkan. They're all pretty good. It really depends on what you want to do. You know, so like take for example the Shimano style, that's the easiest, cleanest version that even a noob would be able to tie. You know, the piercing, that's like um, that's like standard for a lot of companies, like even for VMC. So it's very reliable, right? So really, it really depends. It really depends. Like owner does like the single, you know, just the putting it on top and then boom. That it's the cleanest, but it's also the most difficult, you know, to get right because otherwise that thing slips and then bye bye. But if you put a knot at the end, guess what? It's the Shimano style, right? So um, there's really, it really depends on what you want to do. It really, for me, it's a difference of styles, and it depends on the hook. That's it. For me, it greatly depends on the hook that I'm using. That's it. Um, here's the thing, guys. After the fishing trip, okay, after the fishing trip, you could actually leave it for the next day because it makes no difference. It makes no difference. It really makes no difference. You know, leave it for a day or two. That's fine. But leave it for a week, then you're in trouble. You know, but a day or two, it's fine. It's fine. You know, I do that a lot. You know, one of the things I actually do is just put them in the bathroom. You know, um, if you put them in the bathroom, like take for example when you're showering and stuff, the steam, moisture actually, you know, also goes onto the thing and it helps break down the salt. But more importantly, while I'm in the shower, it reminds me that it's there. And since I cannot actually like stand it, you know, I just take and all right, Eric, have a good one. Good luck on the trip. Oh, it is a Friday, isn't it? It's that time. You'll catch some. Just trust the process. You should be good. I'm gonna take a break, guys. It's been 3 hours, and my wife has peaked several times. So I will go back again in about an hour or so. Alrighty. It's been great. Free rig, soft plastic. I was like talking about just the hook presentation and stuff. Um, like if it's a sliding bank sinker and all that, it's a Carolina rig. um, that's another presentation that's done a lot, you know. But again, rock, that's something that I do in shallower water. In deeper water, there's different rigs that are far better than this, the free rig, or what do you call this? It's called a Carolina rig, basically. Ha 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 ha! Cool. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a Carolina rig, dude. It's just another way. Yeah, but the difference is a sinker. The same thing. It's literally a form of what do you call this? It's literally a form of Carolina. The rental skiffs I fish. But you usually go with three people, know exactly what to bring and overpack, avoid getting. Yeah, I mean, dude, like if you're on a small boat, like a 16 footer, you better not be cluttered. Like that's a nightmare. I mean, I have a skiff, right? It's a 14-foot skiff. It's a single person skiff. And if I am not careful of what I take, it's very easy to overload the damn thing. I mean, the easiest way to know if you take so much is to go kayak fishing. And on the kayak, you'd realize how much junk you actually take. And then after that, you just kind of learn how to take the essentials and stuff, and that's when you realize that, okay, this and this and this is what I really need, and all that. Always carry at least two setups, like jigging, like casting setup during the boat trips. Yeah. Well, again, you know, it's part of the game when you actually learn how to put together a tackle system that works for you and covers the the needs when they arise. You know, and there's like there's always this like Wael. Again, let's go back to Wael. Wael's funny because he always thinks that, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? So he ends up taking a lot, you know, and they sit there not being used. Like I'm guilty of that as well when in the early days. And like, oh, okay, think about it this way also. In the last trip, I brought three rods and reels, like combos. I used all three of them, but most of the fish, or most of the fishing I did, was actually on just one. So, and the only reason why I had like those two is because one I needed to test, right, and the other one was for bigger stuff. I was literally told what we were going after, the bigger tuna, so 50 kg and above. Like literally was told we're going after 50 kg and above fish. All right, so I took my Flex Limited together with a 16,000 spooled, what do you call this, Stella. But most of the fishing, it was on the 6,000 Stella, and that's what you saw in the video. So, like for me, even that trip, when you really think that you've narrowed everything down, right? You still, you know, and the trip saver literally was because I was not supposed to take my 6,000 setup. Like at the very last minute, I just go, you know what? This has happened before, and I don't want to be caught. Like, dude, the thing is, on that boat, I can literally pick any rod, switch the handle, and then it'll be very comfortable for me because, like Faisal said, my preferences are based on yours, and if I had the money to spend, guess what? The rods that I would pick would be exactly the ones that Faisal has because I picked it for him. You know what I mean? So, like, I can, I could just. And in fact, when he got so, what do you call this? He got so embarrassed that he was the one who actually told me that no jigging, no jigging. So I was like, are you sure? Because I have gear here. And then he goes, no, we're not jigging. So I left it in the car. So he literally told me, like, dude, just take the one that I caught the fish with, switch the handle, okay, from because he reels right, then put it on the left, and then you could use it, go catch fish. I was like, nah. So even that, and then I just used, because I said like, nah, I'm gonna use what I have, and I'm gonna catch like a lot. And then that's exactly what happened. That was funny. He ended up asking for lures. Imagine a tackle shop owner asking me like, can I have one of those? And that's when he caught, or caught his second, because the first fish was caught jigging. Anyway, that's that. All right, guys, I'm gonna take a break. I think my wife's actually wanting me to cook lunch because I'm like the cook for the house. All right. So I'm gonna come back here after lunch, and hopefully you guys are, some of you guys are still around. Alrighty. So that's it for now. I'll see you in the next one. Alrighty. Thanks so much.